1 Peter 3, verse 7. And we've been looking, of course, on these family nights and trying to help us at home. Everything we are doing in life as a Christian happens at home. That's where it begins. The Christian you are and I am is there. The influence that God is going to use, the influence that is going to really count for God is not your influence outside of the home, but first in the home. Then out of that grows everything. That foundation is home. The encouragement you need, men, from your wives and wives from your husband, is at home. That basis to continue for God and not give up comes out of your home. That's their strength there. And the Lord gives us that help meet to keep us going when we get down and all of those things. And really, the thing that will matter eternally is going to be what you've done in living for God out of your home. I'll tell you, the sad thing, and I think the reason we've had such an exodus in the church over the last number of years is because of a hypocrisy at home. Pastors' families are just as much guilty as any other family, so I'm not pointing the finger. But where children, generations have seen it wasn't real. Mom and Dad said one thing on Sunday and it was different during the week. It cannot be that way, not if it's real. Now, if it's not real, we might as well just go home. But if it is real, then it ought to change us at home. And so that's what we're asking God to do, and I hope this will help us together. Last time we met, we're looking at 1 Peter 3, 7. We talked about something else, but the first week we talked about honoring women. Remember that one? I get to be with you. I get to sit with you, right? And tonight we're going to honor men, and I is one. And so we're going to talk about why men are so valuable. And so ladies, we're going to honor them, but it'll be for both of you. I wonder how many asked the three questions over the last couple weeks. You've asked, what kind of marriage do we want? Y'all talked about that? Where is our marriage today? What would it take to make it a 10? How many of you have talked about that in your marriage? All right, good, a few of you. The rest of you, we won't grade you tonight, but for the medicine to work, you got to take it, so that's how it works. If the doctor prescribes it, if you don't take the pill, it doesn't help. So talk about those things. What could change? What could God do? All right, and we're going to look at 1 Peter 3, 7 just a minute. Begin on your blanks there. Number one, we're going to see three things tonight, and then we're going to give you the end of what you did on the test results. Number one strength. There's your first blank, strength. One strength of men is if someone they trust gives them a plan about how to have a better marriage, they think, I can do this. I can do this. Strength, plan, marriage, your first three blanks. I can do this. Now, you need to be on the one that says loving your mate, genuine love, loving our mate, and want God to help us on this. But see, men make a decision when they have a plan, and they think, I can do this. I can conquer this. That's the left brain thing. I can work with this plan, these facts. And the great thing about man, ladies, is he can do the plan no matter how he feels. He doesn't have to feel it. He can still do what he needs to do. Ladies operate from feeling, then fact, but men operate from fact, and then they feel. And so he can begin, even if he doesn't know if it's real, as long as it's a plan that it's someone he trusts, and he can see the results begin to take place in his marriage. You hear about the guy that went to a marriage seminar, and he went, and when he got the book, he got back and he started reading and said, well, I can do this. And he talked to his friends at work and said, look, how about every Friday we spend our lunch break 1 hour and we read over this book. I think it'll help us to have a better marriage. We can do this. And all you guys, I hear you talk about your marriage. I know it's not what it should be. Let's help each other and have a good marriage. We can do it. And so this particular week, one of the guys that went to the meeting for that hour during the lunch break, they learned about how you ought to do things for your wife. And the particular one they were talking about was bring her cards and flowers and candy, and what that would mean to your wife and what it communicates to her. And he had never done this before, never even knew he should. And so he thinks, I can do this. I mean, he's like, yeah, I can do this. I can buy her some candy or flowers and make a card. And so he does. And boy, he's excited. He thinks, man, I'm going to have a good marriage. I can do this. And so he goes and gets the card and the flowers and the candy, the chocolates or whatever. And he shows up at the door, And he's excited, he's going to have a good marriage. And he rings the doorbell instead of coming in the normal way. And she opens the door. And he's smiling and says, hey, and gives her all this. And I love you, like that. And she bursts into tears. And he thinks, I thought this was supposed to communicate how much I love her. And now she's crying. And I don't know. And he doesn't know what to think. And she says, oh, it's been the worst day ever. And she said the kids got into things. They've been a mess. And they messed all over the house. And then the dishwasher overflowed all over the carpet. And now you come home drunk. Why is that even funny? Men don't normally think of things like that. And so, ladies, you're even suspect if he were to bring up, what'd you do? What's going on? Because we don't think that way often. And the problem with a lot of women is they think their husbands lay awake at night thinking of ways to strain their marriage. But that's not true. We don't lay awake at night. It comes naturally to us to strain our marriage with things. And so, that's left brain stuff. We're not relational naturally. But that's the great thing about men. They can make a decision to be right-brained and be relational. When they know the facts and have a plan, they can do it. And one great strength of a man is he makes a decision when he has a plan. And remember, women can recognize a great relationship and know how to have one. And so God's help us to draw that plan and know how to make the adjustments in our marriage. And that's why these questions I mentioned. 1 Peter 3:7, if you see what the Bible says here, and he's speaking to us here, husbands. We talked about the likewise a week ago about wives and how like Jesus. And here, likewise, husbands like the Father. He honored the Son. He gave him a name above every name, the Bible says. Likewise, like the Father did because of Jesus' subjection and submission, we as husbands are to honor them for that. Verse 7, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Now, this isn't just home stuff, this is spiritual stuff, that your prayers be not hindered. Romans 12:10 says, be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. And so both of these terms use this word honor, preferring one another. Honor, we're to give honor to each here. Number two, not only the strength of men, but secondly, men can find the facts of what is needed and work on it whether they feel like it or not. As long as they have a plan. They're left brain. So they can find the facts. So remember, more of the same doesn't bring change. You can say, well, our home is, more of the same is not going to change it. We must make a change. That's one definition of insanity, right? We need to make a change. What am I going to do? Well, I've got to grow. All of us need to. We need to honor one another here, we see in both of these verses. Love requires knowledge. It says we're to dwell with the wife according to knowledge. It requires knowledge. It's the next blank. Of what it takes to love someone, it also takes skill to apply that knowledge. And so we need to know or to dwell with them according to knowledge, but it also takes skill to apply the knowledge. Now, I don't have a live plant here, but if you could imagine this is a plant. And we were going to talk about, we remember we used that object lesson before last time about Abraham Lincoln's cufflink, all right? If this plant here, and I just use this to help you remember, to some degree, we're blind before marriage. We don't see everything. I mean, this plant looks good. We could go outside and look at the ones there on the porch or on the front here, or either one. But if you started, before you get married, you think, boy, those are beautiful blooms, and isn't that pretty, and things. But many times, if you start moving a plant around very much, well, you got something dead back here. You got some real problems over here, And you start seeing things, you look a little deeper. But before we're married, many times we don't see those things. All we see is the beautiful blossoms and how beautiful. Look at the pretty flowers. And women that had poor relationships with their father or hurtful teachers or bosses can affect them responding right to their husband. And those things, all of that whole of the relationships of past come into a marriage. And so when you marry her whole history, man. and all of those things are what she needs. And so your next blank there is real love is fact-finding. Real love is fact-finding. Meaning all of us have brown areas, if we're thinking of a plant here. All of us have parts that have wilted some, that aren't all what it should be. It's not what would be a blue ribbon plant. And so real love is taking them, you love them for who they are. You can't take part of them. You take them all at the marriage altar, right? And all comes with them. Past things, hurts of past, whatever. And so when you begin to look and see, real love is fact-finding. Oh boy, someone hadn't cared for this. There hadn't been enough water. They haven't had enough sunlight. Boy, there might be some soil issues here, maybe some fertilizer needs here. And you begin to look what is needed to have the relationship we should have. Not, hey, what's wrong with you? Straighten up, Take care of yourself. You've got some real problems here. You start talking to this plant. You grind your teeth at night. Your spending habits are out of control. You nag me all the time. That's not going to work. We have to find how to help them and what is needed. Love is saying, what do you need? And then providing that and working on that. So we must learn what it takes to have a wonderful marriage or any relationship. What are the facts here? What does it take to have a great relationship? Once I found out the knowledge and work on the skills to take care of this plant, for instance, then the left side of the brain kicks in for men. I have a plan. I can do this. I can need this, need that. Men can have a blue ribbon plant or a blue ribbon marriage if they'll see what the needs are, and then they can make a plan. All right? Men and women, parent and children, all these relationships, these answers are the same for what it takes to have a great marriage, a great relationship. I can look. I can listen. I can look, oh, this soil is not good. Oh, they don't have enough water. This is what my family and our home needs. And I can learn from other sources, good godly books on marriage. Certainly, obviously, the main book, the Word of God, what is God saying? Godly counsel. Let's go for a 10. I want a home that's a 10. I want my children to have seen a home that it should be. I want to have a home like that. I want to have a marriage like that. And I desire to see families in our nation going for a 10, having strong families that are Christian homes and Christian marriages that people can look to. I was doing some premarital counseling before service tonight. And I was asking them what type of marriage they had to look to. And the one said, well, my dad's been divorced and married 4 times. And now they had another good example in their grandparents. But people have not seen what a home should look like. And that shouldn't be for us as Christians. We ought to love one another. We ought to ask God to do a great work in our hearts that we would be the example that we should be. So, men and women, whatever it takes, we can go for it. It's a conquering experience. Let's go for a 10. Let's have the best and see families in our nation going for it and having strong families. Well, what does it take? Now, ladies, you can do this. You could look at your marriage and say, what does it take? What do you need? If your husband won't. But someone has to start. What does this home need to make it a 10? Well, number 3, 4 things that must be present in marriage for that marriage to work. You have to have all 4 to some degree for the marriage to work. Number 1, security. Your blank there is sunlight. You imagine we're dealing with a plant here. It needs sunlight. This is a need that must have. Well, you think of security. How many fights in a home come and you don't even know why you're fighting? And the root problem is there's a feeling of there's not security in the marriage. Could be a financial security. Could be this loyalty, security, a relationship that you know you're secure in their love. It could be many things, but there's not security. Many times the root problem of the fight is that someone feels insecure. I feel like there's some problem here. So you need to tell them you're committed for life. Not just committed to the marriage, but committed to make the marriage a 9 or a 10. And not, well, I'll stay around here, but I ain't going to like it or be. No. I'm committed to you, and I want to make our marriage wonderful. Shoot for the moon, make it wonderful. That's why chocolates and flowers and jewelry are so meaningful, because it says, I'm committed to you. I'm committed to you. I love you. Everybody goes through tough times in a marriage. There isn't one marriage in here, if they're honest, that hasn't been through some difficult time. It doesn't mean that it was a difficult time because they did something to one another. Sometimes it's because there was a death in the family. Sometimes it was a job loss, a financial struggle. There's been strained times in every marriage. Every relationship has strained times. So what am I going to do? You say, well, I feel like our strain's all the time. Well, at least everyone has at least 10% strain time. And so how do we get through times like that and not end in divorce like many, many couples are? Well, one of the things that must be there is security. With security, you can make it through the strain times. If I know and Mary knows that we love each other and we're committed to one another, we can get through any of it. You can get through the tough days, the problems and hurts of life. Real love commits themselves to whatever it takes that they need, no matter what. You know, whatever it takes, however much sunlight you need, I'm here for you. I want you to feel secure. You know, if they need breath mints, if I need to use odor eaters, whatever it takes, no matter what condition, I want to do what's necessary for our home. All right, number 2, meaningful communication. So if this plant's in rough condition, I can't say, well, you only get that much sunlight, or you only get that much water, or fertilizer. Whatever it takes, what does it need? See? So meaningful communication is number 2. What does meaningful communication mean? Well, I'm still learning, but what I'm told as I've studied and read, and again, not everything is exactly for every marriage, but the typical things we're studying is it means we're talking, we're communicating, we're dwelling with them according to knowledge means we share our feelings. That's what a meaningful communication is. We share how we feel. Mary and I were talking about that last night. We were talking about some different things. And it may mean around the house you have to talk about Christmas in August, you know, because they like to talk about it and they want to share how they feel about getting ready for Christmas. But it's communication. I mean, communication's like water, if you want to put your next blank there. It's like water. You can't say to a plant that it has some brown spots, well, you only get this much water, that's all you get. Well, you've got to give it whatever it needs. You've got to give it enough water for what it needs. So it varies from person to person perhaps, but from what I've seen, and get ready, most marriages need 1 hour of meaningful communication every day. That doesn't mean it's necessarily all at once, but meaningful communication. Meaningful. You can figure out for your home, you can ask the 3 questions. Where are we at in our communication, our meaningful communication? What do we need to do to make it better? It may mean you have to save it up. You say, we have small kids. You may have to save it up for a couple times during the week. We're going to take a walk, and we're going to spend a little more time. We're sitting on a park bench. We're going to have a date, and we're going to sit and talk and have meaningful communication. But it needs to happen. And this is something you might have been better at one point, and you need to work on again. Meaningful communication. But part of the skill is learning how to begin. How to begin meaningful communication. How to close the communication. How to conclude and solve things. Knowledge and skills. And so, you just can't say, all right, Monday Night Football starts in 15 minutes, let's talk. It doesn't work that way. We have to learn the skill of talking and communicating one another. That's a skill. And people change over time, and you have to work at it. So it's not just the knowledge, it's the skill of how to do it. And now that you know what we need to do, now we've got to work on the skill. And many women get more enjoyment from planning and anticipating the event more than the event itself, like vacations or Christmas. And now, ladies, at this time, I want to say some very special things to you ladies. And I want to sound honoring, but I want to be honest to you. You see, the average man wants to have a great marriage. And if he had a plan and knew what to do. But many times they don't know how. We don't know how as men. And what you do to us can discourage us, just totally. And so much so they don't have the energy to even try anymore. And many men get to that point, to have a great marriage. You say, what are you talking about? Well, women might say, and by the way, there's facial expressions and body language involved, but man, get with the program, and he doesn't even know what the program is. I mean, he doesn't even know what channel you're talking about. And the looks intimidate men, but you're crying. And he knows something's wrong. He thought when he went to work he had a good marriage, and now you're crying, and he doesn't know what to do. And then he tries to do something to make things okay. And you say something like, is that all you think that's going to make everything okay? You just did that? And he doesn't know. He has no idea what the next step is. And in fact, UCLA does a study every year that pretty much the results are the same. Women intimidate men. Partly because of their facial expressions, Women have 250,000 different facial expressions. Not really, but the look, and you all know what I'm talking about. I don't even want to look at you right now. Just kidding. But partly because we know that you know something that we don't know, and we don't know how to know it, And so we struggle with that relational thing. Though ladies have that, they understand each other. Mary was with her sister and her mom, and she talked about how they understand. I mean, they all share the same brain, it seems like it sometimes. They understand each other. They have that connection together, and that's a wonderful thing. But sometimes we don't know how to get there. You say, it seems almost like I'm speaking, or he might say, like she's speaking a foreign language. He can't understand me. It's like I'm speaking a foreign language to him. And he doesn't know what to do, and you're expecting him to do something, and he doesn't know what that is. Remember, he speaks a foreign language. He speaks a left brain language, a left brain thinking. And the problem is you think he knows, and he doesn't. If you could assume there was a foreign language gap between you and your husband, it would help, because we don't read between the lines well. And you think we should, and it's obvious, and the ladies in the room might think it's obvious, but the guy doesn't get it, doesn't see it. And we just don't think in relational as well. We don't read between the lines. Now, we can work on that. We ought to work on that and try to read and understand. But if you can imagine, we came in tonight, and you all were still out talking in the lobby or something, and me and this lady was sitting here. Let's imagine Chloe I'm talking about here. And someone had been in here before, maybe some kids had been through and pulled out all the envelopes, and the pens are on the floor and things, and there was stuff all over the platform too. And I said, hey, could you help me and you pick up some of this stuff, and I'm going to pick up stuff up here, all right? And she smiled at me, so I think she understands, and I go up here and I'm working and picking things up and trying to make them look nice. And I turn back, she's still sitting there. So I go back over, I say, I thought you smiled and you understood, you knew you were going to help me, and can you help pick up this stuff? And all right, she smiles again, and I think, okay, she gets it, and I go back up here, and I turn around, she's still not there. Now, come to find out later, she doesn't speak any English. She only speaks Spanish. And I didn't realize. Now, how many ladies would think it'd be okay for me to say, to get upset with her and say, come on now, there's people coming in. I thought you'd help me. You smiled at me. But that happens in marriages where they're talking totally different languages, and one gets upset or the other because they don't understand what the other person was getting at. It didn't come out as clear as we might think. And that happens on and on. And by the way, thank God the Lord is at work in our homes, and we can learn how to say, and later in the series I hope to help to say some things that your husband and wives, you'll understand what you're saying, even feel what you feel. Many times men feel inadequate. She's crying, she's upset. I thought our marriage was fine. And we feel like, especially as spiritual leaders in a home, that the marriage is our responsibility, and I want to have it right. I want it to be right. But it's not what it ought to be, and there's something wrong. I don't know all what it is, and we can feel inadequate because they don't know what's wrong. Remember, men are into solutions, and they don't know how to conquer it. We don't know what you're saying. Men need to feel adequate and receive praise. And I want to encourage you ladies, praise him. If he starts to work on some of this we talk about, praise him. If he even heads in the right direction, he feeds off praise. We used to do this with our girls, and they want to tell us something, and they go, boy, and they show you something. Look at this picture I drew. Whoa, it's so pretty. And then they draw great. But boy, they just feed off that, and they just bloom, and encourage him if he's trying to make an effort. Remember, nonverbal communication's huge. Oh, wow, look what you did, And you've all had kids bring you something they colored, and you think, wow. And this is like, the same as some famous painter. But outside of the Lord, the honest truth is the greatest thing I have in my life is a wife that believes in me, the spouse that believes in me. And you're the same way. And we need that. I need her to say, "You're a good preacher, and you help me, and you're a good husband, you're a good father." And that does for me what no one else can do. I need that, and all men, we need that encouragement. By the way, men, we get our identity many times from what we do at work. And ladies, if you'll learn about what we do and try to encourage them in what they do and take interest in what they do, that helps them. He'll blossom. even thinking about, with your work and encouraging him along that. And you know what? You could be that manager. You could. You know these things. And he sometimes doesn't have the confidence to even try for it. But you can encourage him and they'll blossom. Nonverbal communication and praise is amazing. There was a psychology class, true story. Their teacher would lecture, and he wasn't really interested at times, and so they got together and they said, look, outside of class they got together and said, when the teacher, they had this radiator type of a hot water type heater thing in the room, those old radiator heaters, and when he gets close to that, let's all act like we're really interested. If he moves away from it, let's pretend like we're not. And so it's nonverbal. It was a psychology class. They're testing their theory. And so imagine this is the water heater. And so if he starts teaching over here and is talking over here, they're all looking around. They're not interested, But if he moves over towards here, they're all like on the edge of their seat and they're writing notes and they're listening, looking. And no joke, in 3 weeks, they had him sitting and teaching from the hot water radiator. The nonverbal communication was that strong. And so just little things like that and us being interested, this works with your children. They can tell if you're interested in them or not. And I have to work at this, to give your full attention when they're talking to you and listening to them and being someone they'll hear. Someone will give them attention. It may not be the person you want to have influence in their life. And so all of our relationships really work together in that type of thing. Use the power of praise. We all do it from time to time. We all use it. But you can help lead them down the right path relationally by praise. Remember, you get what you praise for. You get what you praise for. That's a good principle to live by. How often we complain and we don't like something, but we don't praise them for what they're doing that's good. I used to go to Pastor Patrick when I worked under him here from time to time, and I'd just ask him, tell me, is there anything you don't like that I'm doing? Anything you want me to change? Anything you want me to stop doing? Anything I need to work at more? And just to open up the conversation, because I wanted to help the pastor. That was my desire as an assistant. I wanted to help the pastor. So I'd ask him. Now, no one likes criticism. But Mary and I talk about our relationship time to time that way. And we want to, because I wanted to improve it and grow in our marriage. And we ought to have that desire to grow. I don't think anyone likes to be criticized. But wise people seek criticism. They want feedback. They want to know because they want to grow. So when he seeks it, help him. But be careful how you do it. You may never ask again. You ever ask someone how they're doing and you didn't realize there was a dump truck coming, and they tell you everything, and you want to be sympathetic, but you didn't expect that much information, right? So be careful. Don't dump the whole thing on them the first time, but you can help them. Make it constructive, not just negative. Give solutions, suggestions. When there is negative, you can say anything with the right tone and the right way. You put your arms around them and you're so wonderful. One little thing that would help me and you could say it in the right way makes all the difference, doesn't it? He's into solutions. Number 3 under this. So we talked about water. We talked about sunlight. And water is that meaningful communication. Sunlight is that security. Third is romantic emotional experience. Romantic emotional experience. This is soil. Imagine a plant here. It doesn't matter how much you water to give it sunlight. If there's not enough dirt in there, if it's not the right type of dirt, it doesn't have some fertilizer over time. It just runs out of nutrients, especially in a potted plant. It needs soil. So romantic emotional experience. Now that's different for everybody. Ladies are different. Men are different. Maybe a candlelight dinner. Maybe a walk on the beach. One lady said that she loves a walk on the beach. That's romantic to her. And someone asked her, what could ruin that walk on the beach for you? She said, if he brings his fishing pole. But see, men might not even think about that. Like, it's down here, we're still holding hands, it's not bothering anybody, and when we get down to the pier, I can throw in, and see if I can catch something. And we're into conquer. I want to conquer this walk and catch a fish at the same time. But for her, that would ruin it. It wouldn't make it romantic then. It wasn't an attention on her. So, we think different. Some might be a night at a cabin, some type of emotional bonding there. Ask the 3 questions. Where are we in having a romantic, emotional experience together? 0 to 10. Where are we? Look, man, we have the rest of our life to work on this. We believe marriage is for life. We have the rest of our life to work on this. So gain the knowledge, dwell with her according to knowledge, and then work on the skills to have the 10 marriage, a 10 home. Wouldn't that be wonderful? get the knowledge, and then hone the skills. Number 4, how about physical needs? This is air. Plant needs all 4 of these things. What is the main physical need in the home? The main physical need is touch, to be held, holding hands. Non-intimate touch I'm talking about. Certainly there's physical needs as well, but this is important touch. It's said that your marriage needs 8 to 12 meaningful touches every day. I'm talking about holding hands, non-intimate touch in this way. Now, physical needs are not being met in the home. It's because there's one of the first 3 that are not right. Someone's insecure. Someone doesn't feel like they're having the meaningful communication. They're not having the romance. And so, ladies especially, they need this meaningful holding hands. It's non-intimate here. This is talking about this touch, loving touch. Conclusion. We talk about these 4 and what works for your mate. You've got to talk. It'd be different from one lady to the next. What works? Then what is it that makes you feel secure? Ask her, what is it that is meaningful communication to you? What is emotional bonding? What is a romantic emotional experience? Meaningful touches. See, once I understand the skills about this plant, I can water this thing. It needs that much water twice a week. I can do that. See, men can do that. They have a plan. Oh, it needs sunlight so much and not too much. I can do that. You know, it needs so much fertilizer so often. I can do that. Once we have a plan, we can work through it. So we need to talk. What would be this for you? What would be meaningful communication? What makes you feel insecure? What makes you feel secure in our relationship? And then we have the rest of our life to work on it. We can have a plan and go forward. And guys work that way with a plan. Remember, the strength, next blank there, of a woman is her ability to develop and sense good relationships. And we can draw that right out of her. What would it do? Honey, what would it do if I did this in our marriage? What would it take to make it a 10? In this area, in this area, in this area, these 4 areas. Then strength of a man, next blank is strength again. Strength of a man is he can make a decision because it's right and he can have a plan. I mean, man, 25% of the need is just meaningful touch, just to be held. I mean, these things are so helpful to learn about what is needed to take care of this plant, for instance, or take care of your marriage. Now, let me caution you, ladies, when he starts trying, don't say, well, you just heard that, and then you don't really mean it, so you might as well just quit. No, men can do things before they feel or mean it, okay? You might say to them, you don't feel it, you don't mean it, just forget it. No, he does. But they feel inadequate. They're trying to do something they don't know how to do. Men do first and feel second. Okay? Women feel first and do second. And so if he's trying something, encourage him, praise him. Don't say, well, you don't really. Okay? You see again the value of differences. We ought to value the ladies and, oh, it's wonderful what God's given you in your home. And you ought to tell them. And men, ladies, you ought to value the men and say, it's wonderful what God gave me. And if you tell them, I know you're doing this for me, and I know you don't always feel it, but you're doing it because you love me. Thank you. I'll tell you, he'll eat that up. I know. No doubt about it. So let's go home tonight and talk about it. Talk about these 4 areas. What works for you? Honor. Love, remember, is fact-finding. What do they need? I love them. I want to provide. If I'm going to take care of this plant and show it the love it needs, I've got to give it enough water. I've got to give it enough sunlight. So your wife, what does she need? Love, real love, man, is fact-finding. Meet her, meet his needs, whatever it takes. That ought to be our attitude. All right, I need some help. Brother Joseph, you've got these. If you'll pass these out, we're going to shift gears here and end by discovering your personality type. Anyone that didn't get the test, we gave out it 2 weeks ago, the personality test. Anyone did not get one and want one, we'd like to give it to you. Didn't get the test. They're giving you the results. Anyone didn't get the test? We got some extras. You could take it home and do it. We gave a test 2 weeks ago. Sunday night, if you were here 2 weeks ago, the very first family night. All right? Ernesto, there's some on the front. Would you pass them out there? Right here, Ernesto. Would you help me? And if you need one of the tests, we're going to give you the results right now. But 2 weeks ago, we gave the test. If you didn't, all right, very good. Anyone else? Everyone needs the results. That's what Joseph and Ray has. All right, I can print some more if you didn't get a test and need one. This is just helpful. This is discovering your personality type, and it helps to know your spouse's personality type. And this is good for singles just to understand, and friends to understand, and the children that are here, that's great. It's a little bit different for children, but that they can take it, and that's fine. Let's go through it. How many of you've already done the test, and you know which one you are? Would you raise your hand? Okay, good. How many of you husbands, your wife looked over your test? I'm just wondering. And did they score what yours is, what they thought? Just curious. Good. All right, you found it there? We're switching to 3A now in your blanks. There's a few blanks as we go through this. You say, well, I didn't take the test. Well, you can still get this information. We'll have a test for you. Like I said, 2 weeks ago, Sunday night, we handed them out at the end of the service, if you recall. But anyway, we'll get you another one. That's not a problem. All right, so as you think of this idea of your personality test, you find that page 3A and the results. I hope you had fun doing it, but and understanding a little more about each other, about yourself. I think it's good. And your tendencies. Now, this is going to talk about what will help you. And helps us to be more tolerant, more patient, more understanding. It doesn't mean I or my spouse shouldn't work on these weaknesses or say, well, I'm just that way. It doesn't mean that. Well, God's given us the ability to change and grow. But it does mean it helps us to understand where they're coming from. This is how they are. It doesn't mean they shouldn't change and grow. It just means this is part of their makeup. This helps you understand them a little more. All right, first of all, lions. And I wonder how many of you were lions. Would you raise your hand? Lions. All right, want to honor lions. Okay, good. All right, a few of us. That's where I'm at. I'm in between lion and otter. And I took it again, and it was good. But lion, your personality, the blank here, the word for lions is leaders. They're your leaders. Okay, they can be controlling, but they're leaders. They can't rest on vacation. They're the go, 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 go type many times. You ever hear about the mother that she took her boy to school, and on the way the boy said, where are all the idiots today? And she said, where did you learn to talk that way? And he said, well, Daddy took me to school yesterday. We saw 5 idiots, Idiot, use your signal. Idiot, get out of the way. Gas pedal's on the right, idiot, That's a lion many times. Under pressure, they can become dictators. That's one thing they have to watch. Okay? And there's a whole list of things in this personality thing. I'm just pointing some of the highlights for your blanks there. All right, how about otters? You're the otter. We'll honor you. What otters do we have? Anyone that's an otter? Some of you hadn't taken the test yet. That's all right. Okay, good. We'll see if you're an otter. But here's the words. Number 2, fun. That's the word for the otter. Many times he's a visionary. He's the party waiting to happen. The networker. He's motivational, loves practical jokes, likes to combine menu choices at restaurants. I'll take a number 5 with a side of 7 and add 14 in there, like that. He's real optimistic, the otter. And now here's a couple things underneath that. Often they don't keep commitments. Not because they meant to, they just forgot. They got invited to another party and went to that one. All right? Now, not all of these things are exactly true for everybody. These are the tendencies of that personality. Sometimes you score more than 2 or whatever. What you're supposed to have done is plot where you scored. If you didn't do it, you can do it still later. Take the test, and then it'll help you to see. Under pressure, otters verbally attack. They're verbal in attack. And then what relaxes them is to talk more. More social time relaxes them. All right, golden retrievers. How many took, and you're a golden retriever? All right, good. I'll honor you. We have golden retrievers. They're wonderful. And I'm married to a golden retriever, I think. Is that what you were? All right. Hey, that's good. Golden retrievers are sensitive. That's the word for golden retrievers. They're sensitive. They're sensitive people. They're the warm ones, the ones that have sympathy and empathy, thoughtful. They're the nurturing ones. So sensitive you can easily be hurt. This is a big one. Often golden retrievers can't say no. They have trouble saying no. And often can be hard for them to make a decision. You know, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, rock, paper, scissors to decide often. All right, these are some things under golden retrievers. When you're hurt, the next blank, when you're hurt, you dig your heels into the ground, will not be moved. Because they are so loyal, next blank, they don't like change. It may take them a month to be spontaneous, that type of thing. All right, then they have the capacity to feel deeply with people around them. They could feel what they're dealing with. Under pressure, they tend to pull away. When they're pressured, they tend to distance themselves. That's the blank, distance. They hide. They don't like to react. All right? Again, not all these things are true about every person that has these things. I'm kind of in between a lion and otter, really. I barely get a little bit in between. And so, but it just helps you to see a little bit, interesting, and gives you some of the strengths and some of the needs and like that. It's good to know what your spouse is. All right, all you beavers. How many beaver? All right, anyone know the beaver? All right. Brother Kilpatrick's a beaver. I remember from him doing this before. Okay, well, honor you. Let me tell you, beaver personality is a perfectionist. Perfectionist, that's the word for them. They enjoy reading instruction manuals. Probably they're the ones that wrote the instruction manuals, right? They keep things straight. They're bankers. They're quality control people. They're health inspectors. They're real careful people. They tend to do everything around the house. They're very specific. You can feel uncomfortable in their home because they're so meticulous. They take the longest taking a test. All right, I see some people enjoying it. That's good. They have stomach trouble because they're hard on people, but more than anything, they're hard on themselves. Beavers are late a lot to things because they want to do things right, and so they forgot to do something at the house. They can't leave till it's right, and so like that many times. Under pressure, they hide their heads and avoid problems. A conclusion there, I believe just understanding who we are and who our family members are helps us to know what they are and be tolerant. That's the next blank. Understand your family. It doesn't mean that it's okay for them to this or that. It just means I can understand that's a tendency of theirs in their personality. This is not something Bible. It's something that's helpful for marriages, and just a small side note here as a tool. All right? We can change, but it gives us a starting point. It helps us even understand ourselves. Why do I tend to do whatever? And that's a weakness of mine I need to work on. That's helpful. Lions, here's a word for you. You need to be determined to be soft. I need to work on being understanding. That's what lions ought to be thinking. I need to slow down and be patient with others. I need to include others, make sure I include others in my decision making, especially if you have a golden retriever for a mate. They need to be hugged. They need to be valued, their feelings, their opinions, because you can just run over them if you're not careful as a lion. So you need to guard that because you're a partner, you're a pal, you're a lover in marriage, you're a Christian, and so you got to be careful not to, if you're the lion personality. All right, then otter, you need to be more of a follow-through person. Follow through. Think through things more carefully. That's a big one. Need to be more committed to friends, otters. Golden retrievers need to be more confronting. Practice, no. No, I'm not going to be able to do that. I need help with this. No, I can't help you on that. I've got too many things. Got to practice saying no. Be more decisive. Need to learn treasure hunting. We'll talk about that later in the series. Beavers, nothing is ever as bad as it appears or as good as it seems. They are people of extremes many times. Beavers are. So they need to learn. Also, we'll talk about more treasure hunting. If you score about the same on the test, say, I got about the same all the way across, it can mean that you are a very balanced person. It can also mean that you had a major life change. Maybe you just got married, or maybe your job changed, or things like that. All right? Let's bow our head together, can we?